All right, so welcome and thank you for joining the Vegan Luna podcast. This is episode number 1, the pilot episode titled Stories Sell and Facts Tell. All right, hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Vegan Luna podcast. My name is Kevin Luna and I'll be your host. So, for the first episode, what I want to talk about is really what is this podcast and what is this all about? And what I want to share with everyone is the reason behind this podcast. So, to get started, to put it simply, okay, I am a vegan, okay? And what I want to share with people is people's stories. I have always heard from the beginning of time that I've always heard is that stories sell and facts tell. And what that means is that somebody can share all the knowledge they possibly have about veganism, about how a car works, about engineering, whatever you have. And the truth is that most of that information just goes in one ear and out the other ear. And what I want to talk about is how the story will sell the idea that we all believe in. Okay? So I want to start off first by just explaining that veganism is not just some fringe diet. It's not just some belief or trend that's going to come and go. The truth is that veganism is a belief that we choose to cause the least amount of harm as practically possible. Put simply, I mean, there's a lot of different definitions that you could look up, but that's really the core belief about veganism. So what I want to share is people's stories. I'm going to invite people on here that have amazing stories that are going to really inspire people to either look within themselves or inspire people to keep doing and keep promoting the awesome work that you guys have done. Now, my story is very simple. Okay? I lived as a typical American. I ate the American diet. I didn't even think that the way I was eating was at all contributing to negative health, the environment, the ethics of animals. I just ate what I was taught. Now, from a young age, most of us believe what our parents tell us, what the media tells us, what you see your friends doing, a lot of the social pressures. We don't really think too much about food. I remember even when I was in school that eating food was just to fill yourself up, whatever tastes good. Nobody thought, is this good for me? Or is this good for the planet? Or is this good for others? Or even, should I be eating this? Most of us don't even think about that. And I remember taking a health class when I was in college. And I remember that it was a nutrition class. And we were doing a project to share what we had been eating for the last week. And to my amazement, well, really not to my amazement, to my teacher's amazement, and my peers' amazement, was my diet consisted of mostly fast food. It was very, very scary, and I just thought it was funny. I didn't really think that this was a serious issue. I didn't really think that there was anything really wrong with it. I just thought fast food was just that, food that you get fast. I didn't really think that it was unhealthy by any means. I didn't really think that it caused any diseases. I just thought as long as it tastes good and everybody else is doing it, what's the big deal? So what happened was I lived that way for most of my life. I mean, I was 18 when I moved out and I started eating on my own and I didn't have much money. So it was so much easier just to pick up a burger at fast food, go to Taco Bell, go to Burger King, go to McDonald's. That was easy. Like, I remember I would be driving down the road and eating a burger or eating a burrito, and these sort of things were just normal. There was never any kind of thought of there's anything wrong with this. I remember having a cousin, and my cousin was vegetarian. He was vegan when he was born, but he was vegetarian most of his life, and we lived together when I first moved out. And I remember constantly making fun of him, and I didn't understand it. I just said, "Why don't you just eat meat? Like, what's the big deal? Everybody else is doing it." And when you say that about food, nobody really bats an eye. It's just like, it's food, it's whatever. Yeah, stop bothering me. But if you were to say that about something that was seriously bad, like seriously wrong, like doing drugs, like, why don't you just do some drugs because everyone else is doing it? Now, even though that happens, that doesn't necessarily make it okay. But there's something about the way people eat and the way we normalize society into thinking that certain things and certain ways that we eat, just because the majority are doing it, makes it normal. Now, my cousin's father, who's my uncle, was a vegan, and he was a vegan for my entire life. And I always thought that he was just the crazy vegan uncle. I never really thought that what he, the way he ate and the way he lived his life was very practical at all. I used to think that, I mean, he must have had a hard time finding food, finding protein, all these sort of things. And for most of my childhood, I would eat the food that they had, and I enjoyed it because I liked everything. I was always that type of person that ate literally everything. I remember when I went to China, and one of the things I learned in China was that they eat everything, every part of the animal, and nothing is wasted. I ate all kinds of things. I don't even know some of the things I ate because I couldn't even speak the language. So it was just a very interesting experience to see the way the culture is different in other parts of the world, the way other people believe things, the way that people are raised, and how you think based on society and the norms that are put upon us. And so I was never really challenged with the way I eat until I had a health scare. And what happened is I got really, really sick because I was taking a medication for an autoimmune disease. Now, I had an autoimmune disease called ankylosing spondylitis. And what this did is it basically, my immune system was attacking my spine as if it wasn't supposed to be there. And it was extremely painful. It caused large amounts of pain. I was basically suffering every single day for quite a while. I couldn't figure out what it was or what was causing it, what was causing this horrible pain. I didn't understand. It didn't make sense. I always thought I'm too young. Like, why am I having back pain? This is definitely not normal. So I went to the doctor, got checked out, and what I found out was that I have this disease, and it was an autoimmune disease. And the doctor said that the only thing that can help treat it is a drug, a prescription drug, and the drug was called Humira. Now, this drug was so expensive. It was 2,000 US dollars per injection. They wanted me to get 2 injections per month. So that was $4,000 every single month. And I could not afford that. That was outrageous, incredibly expensive. So I waited. I basically suffered for several more years until I finally got some better insurance, and I went back to the doctor, and they basically gave me this prescription Humira, which I kind of figured that they would. Maybe they had something better, but that was it. So I started taking this drug, Humira. Lo and behold, I was feeling better. My back was feeling better. And I was very optimistic that I was not going to have to suffer anymore. I was like, cool, man, this drug works. Way to go. But what that drug does, now the purpose of this drug is not the side effect. I'm talking about the purpose of the drug is to weaken your immune system. Now, as you can imagine, a weaker immune system is going to lead to you being more susceptible to viruses, colds, diseases, what have you. So that's exactly what happened. I was hit with a common cold and it basically wiped me out. I was sick for 3 weeks straight. I couldn't get out of bed. I lost my voice. I couldn't do anything. I was reading every single thing that I could find to try and make me feel better. I was trying honey. I was trying medication, over-the-counter medication. I was taking cough medicine, every single thing I could think of to try and help me get better, but nothing was working. Absolutely nothing. The first thing I did was stop that drug. I was like, F this. I'm going to be in pain. I don't even care. I just don't want to be sick anymore. I was the type of person that never got sick. I will always pride myself for not getting sick for like years at a time and not calling in sick. I was sick for 3 weeks straight. And I knew that this drug had a direct effect on this. So I stopped taking that immediately and I started searching on how to get better. I was really in a very almost desperate search to get better. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't believe in doctors. I only went if it was an emergency. There's something about doctors and the fact that they want you to pay and that the medication is all that they offer. And there was just something about doctors that I just never got a good vibe with. Maybe it was from my dad because my dad was always anti-doctors. So I just didn't want to go to the doctor. So I was searching on my own to find something. So someone recommended me to watch a documentary called What the Health. And in this documentary, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. In the documentary, the What the Health, it describes how the animal agriculture industry is very connected with the pharmaceutical industries within money. They're tied together. They support each other and they feed off each other. And it shared a lot of things that I never even thought about as far as certain diseases like heart disease and cancer and diabetes and how there were direct links to eating animal products and getting some of these diseases that are really plaguing the Western world right now. It is astronomical how many people are dying from these diseases that are really preventable and reversible in a lot of cases. So I watched this and it really opened my eyes to things I never thought about. Like I said, I never thought about food and diseases and food and sickness. But since I was sick, it really opened my mind to how to get better. And in searching on how to get better, I was very thankful to find this documentary because this was kind of like the entry point into learning about veganism and to learning about more. From there, I learned more about the animal exploitation, the way the animals are killed in slaughterhouses. I learned about the environmental impacts from the rainforest destruction to water pollution to freshwater usage to the amount of land that's used to raise and feed animals to the amount of pollution that is caused. Greenhouse gases from animal agriculture, all these sort of things I learned. And this was the entry point. So after that, I started to feel a lot better. I mean, really within a few weeks, I was feeling the sickness go away. I was starting to feel pain go away in my back. I started to feel better. My skin started to clear up. I really felt like rejuvenated. I felt bountiful energy. And I was pleased with the results. And it was just a trial. I was just testing it out. But because of what I learned, I decided to stick it out, and it's been almost a year and a half now for me that I've been vegan. So what I want to do with this podcast is I want to share people's stories. I want to share why they went vegan. That's my story. It's really as simple as that. I've done a lot more things since I've been vegan, but I want to really understand people's perspective and why they went vegan. I think there's a lot of people out there right now that are listening or that will be listening to this that are maybe on the fence. Maybe they've heard about veganism. Maybe they aren't sure how you get your protein. Maybe they aren't sure if it'll work for them. Maybe they're skeptical. What I challenge everyone to do is do some research, try it out. You don't know anything until you try it. There's millions and millions of people that have gone vegan, that have enjoyed their experiences on this lifestyle, and just do some research and try it. You can't know anything until you try it. But the second thing, so that's the first thing, is why people went vegan. I really want to understand that. Now, the second thing that I really want to talk about, which I think is becoming more and more of an issue and more of a challenge as there becomes more and more vegans and the movement starts growing bigger and bigger. And that centers around advocacy, being active. And what does that really mean? What does it mean to be active? What does vegan advocacy mean? And how can you start, really, is what I want to educate people in. I want to share people's stories of why they went vegan and what are they doing for the animals and what's their method of advocacy. Now, I'm a firm believer. I'm in the camp that I believe that advocacy is many different things. Being active is so many different things. I don't believe that an activist is just someone that's going out and doing street protest, holding up signs, screaming meat is murder. Now, sure, yeah, that is one form of activism, but opening a vegan restaurant and selling a lot of delicious, amazing tasting food is also a type of advocacy. Writing a book about veganism, whether it's a health book, whether it's an environmental book, whether it's efficacy, animal efficacy book, that's also being active. Creating a podcast like this is being active. Creating a YouTube channel, speaking to other people through social media, sharing different content, sharing videos, sharing stories. Those are all different ways to be active. And I'm a huge, huge believer that being active is the only way that we're going to get to our common goal. I believe that everyone that's a vegan, if you're vegan for the animals, you all share one common goal. And I believe that common goal is helping to end animal use, animal exploitation, animal farming, basically the needless killing of animals. I believe that we all agree on that point. Now, how do we get there is gonna take us all in different kinds of directions. Now, you might not have a very good speaking voice. You don't do a podcast. That's okay. You might be an amazing chef where you create recipes and share recipes. You make recipe book. That's beautiful. You might be the type of person that just loves animals and has a huge farm, and you open a sanctuary where you bring animals in and you take care of them and you get rescue animals. That is awesome as well, and that is hugely impactful. You might not be in those situations. You might be in a huge city like parts of the UK where they have animal rights marches and they have Anonymous for the Voiceless and they have direct action everywhere, and you have all these different avenues to get your voice heard and to speak up for animals and share what you know. Now, these are all awesome avenues. So, this thing that I want to share with people is that there's so many different ways. There isn't one way to advocate for animals. There isn't one way to speak up for them. There isn't one way that works. There isn't one way that doesn't work. Every single thing you do works. I can't tell you how many times someone says, oh, just buying vegan products doesn't do anything. Now, maybe creating a podcast, creating a recipe book, creating a book, or creating a huge feature-length documentary like What the Health or Earthlings or any of those is much more impactful, sure. But I'm not going to go tell someone don't buy vegan food or don't go buy, any cruelty-free food. You should be making a movie when they don't even know how the heck to make a movie. That's very unfair and that's very discouraging. What we need from this movement is a lot more encouragement. We need a lot more people that are sharing the positivity in what they're doing, sharing the positivity in what others are doing. And we need a lot more love. We need a lot more caring for each other. Someone that took that leap of faith, that decided to give up all animal products is an amazing thing. It's a huge blessing. And it needs to be celebrated. It needs to be cherished. And that doesn't mean it's the only thing that person can do. There's more they can do. I love that vegan couple that talks about going vegan is not the most we can do, it's the least we can do. And I truly believe that. But that doesn't mean that someone going vegan, someone making a step towards cruelty-free shouldn't be celebrated. I hate the term baby steps. I think that's a very horrible term, but I would much rather someone go vegetarian versus eating meat. You got to put things in perspective, okay? Now, the end goal is veganism, but how are we helping them get there? By tearing them down? By mocking them? By making them feel bad? Or by celebrating what they're doing and offering assistance to get them to the next step? I think that's much more impactful, much more beneficial, and it's much more productive. So what I want to share with people is that there are so many ways that you could advocate for animals, and there's so many things that you can do that is positive, that is encouraging, and we need a lot more of that going around. So if there's someone that's vegan that you think is not doing enough, first thank them. Thank them for what they have done, because that leap is really scary. I remember when I first went vegan and I did it by myself, it was scary. I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of things that I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to get sick. I didn't know if I was going to feel okay. I didn't know where I was going to get all these important nutrients, which is funny because I didn't really care when I was eating the standard American diet. I didn't really care about protein then or any of these other things. But it's all these myths that are linked to veganism that I was really worried about. And that's the same feelings that other people have gone through when they decide to go vegan. So keep that in mind. Keep things in perspective and know that they are helping animals. When they decide not to go vegan and they decide to cut that out of their life, out of their diet, that is saving, on average, 300 animals per year by just that person deciding to go vegan, plus all the environmental cost and everything else associated with it. But if we're just talking about animals, it's about 300 per year. So remember that. Remember that when you are talking to someone that is vegan. So we need to come together. We need to work together. I want to start to dispel some of the myths that are out there. We're going to talk a lot about certain myths that are out there that people believe that are still there, some stereotypes, how to downplay or mitigate or eliminate some of these stereotypes. Now, every kind of group that you can think of has different stereotypes, and they're not going to necessarily go away. But what we can do is we can do the best to prove the opposite, especially for those negative stereotypes. The stereotypes like vegans are aggressive, or vegans are militant, or they're extremist. Those sort of things, or those sort of stereotypes, are very damaging, and they could really hurt a lot of people involved. So I want to do my best to help dispel a lot of those stereotypes and mitigate those as much as possible, as well as sharing the stories of how people are helping animals. I want to share so many different types of ways that people could help animals so that we together can truly tackle this head on and really make the kind of impact that I know we're all capable of. Everyone is against animal abuse. Everyone, whether you're vegan or non-vegan. The reality is there is so much animal abuse and so much animal suffering that happens on a daily basis that when you really look at the numbers and you really try to analyze this, it is absolutely appalling. And a knife across an animal's throat is abuse. If someone took a knife to your dog, to your cat, to someone you love, and cut their throat, you would scream abuse. You would know that that's abuse. Now, when it happens to a chicken, a pig, a fish, a cow, it's not called abuse, but it truly is abuse. So we're all against that. So what I'm challenging us all to do is come together, share, listen to some beautiful stories, listen to some amazing ways and amazing things that you could do to impact every single day, from simple ways that you could post on Instagram, simple ways that maybe you can create your own podcast, simple ways to just sharing YouTube videos. There's a lot of things that you could do that you might not be aware of. And so my goal is to share awesome stories and share amazing ways that we can help animals together. And that's what the Vegan Luna podcast is all about. Thank you for joining in. I'll see you guys next time. So I just want to thank you guys so much for having a listen at this episode. And please stay tuned for more episodes every single week. Thank you. Have a good one.